So this is another movie based on a real story, and you know what? It's a fairly compelling one. It's also directed by Kevin MacDonald, probably best known for The Last King of Scotland. And it stars Jodie Foster, who I haven't seen in anything in almost a decade. I think since Elysium way back in 2013, and I didn't realize how much I missed her, because she's really good in this, and I very much enjoyed her performance here. And she plays a lawyer who's decided to defend a man named Mohamedou Slahi, a prisoner in Guantanamo Bay who's an alleged organizer of 9/11. And the movie focuses entirely on this case, and actually more on the prisoner than the lawyer. In fact, one of the things I noticed was that we learn almost nothing about Jodie Foster's character, other than her principles and what she stands for as a person and a lawyer. And that's probably because this movie really isn't about her at all. It's about a man being imprisoned and held without trial and without even being charged with a crime. And it's a story that really managed to rile me up, especially the further into it we got. Because if there's one thing that infuriates me, it's just injustice and mistreatment of people for no reason. And you could say, but there's good reason to hold this man and people like him. They are terrorists behind some of the most heinous attacks in US history. To which I can only say, oh yeah, well, charge them with something and prove it in court. Imprisoning people for years without ever charging them with anything or letting them have their day in court is just indefensible. No matter who the person allegedly is, it doesn't matter. They need to be tried in court like anyone else. And this is not even mentioning the conditions and the treatment these people have had to endure while imprisoned. It's actually pretty well documented. It's inhumane, it's cruel, and it's really some disturbing stuff overall. And the worst part is that it's government sanctioned, and Guantanamo Bay is still operational to this day. And this movie gets into all of that and more in quite a lot of detail actually. And yeah, it's a doozy of a movie in that regard. It's not afraid to get dark. And I found it to be very gripping, and the 2 hours basically just flew by watching this. I also found the approach it took rather interesting, presenting both sides of this case in a more balanced manner than most movies like this, because I never really hated the opposition. You know, I understood where they were coming from, and Benedict Cumberbatch's character was great in this too. He might have even been my favorite performance in this, and he plays the lead for the prosecution. What I also found interesting was the fact that both sides also had a really hard time building their cases. The people holding all the relevant information didn't want to release it to anyone, making it almost impossible to make any headway for either side of the fence. So all of that was good, and from a technical standpoint it was just a very solid movie. Nothing really stood out in a particularly great or terrible way at all, to be honest. But there were also some weak points here and there, like Shailene Woodley's character. She was just boring and ended up doing more or less nothing for the entire movie. And the fact that we didn't really get to know any of the characters on a deeper, more personal level felt less than optimal. But I guess the movie did want to focus more on this case and what it represents than any individual. And the prisoner definitely did get some attention here. So it's understandable, and it wasn't that much of an issue at the end of the day. But yeah, overall I liked this. I thought it was well put together and it brought up some important issues. And as a result, I think I'm gonna give this one a solid 7. However, would I recommend it? Yeah, why not? But I still don't think it's necessarily a must-see. So, you know, maybe check it out or don't. After all, I'm not your dad. But hey, what are your thoughts on this? Have you seen it? Did you like it? Let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, maybe give it a thumbs up or sub to the channel, because that would be fantastic.